Hello everybody, we are here for our third edition of the Rural Family Medicine Café. It's been quite a while that we haven't done any editions and I'm really happy to be here. My name is Mayara Flores. I'm a resident in family medicine in Brazil and happy to be here. Can we start like presentation? Maybe Gobif, can you introduce yourself?
Hello everyone. Hello, are you hear me?
Yes, we are hearing you.
Okay, this is Govind from Sri Lanka. I'm a young family physician and visiting lecturer at the Jaffna Medical Faculty at the Family Medicine Department. And I'm doing a rural project in our area, actually, in our country. You all know, in Sri Lanka, the small island country. It's having around 80% of rural area. Even though among the region we are much better healthcare all indicators, still we are doing backing on our rural medicine, even application for the family medicine. Still we don't get much popular field, but still we are doing manage to well. Actually, just I come from my one of the visit for the rehabilitation patient at home visit. On the way, I have just come to the in maybe the one of the center, and I'm talking with you with my mobile phone. Actually, I don't have the even earphone and all. Maybe you are listening me with okay. That's all from myself. What else from others? Thank you.
Thank you, Gobif. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi. So my name is Berit. I'm a GP trainee from Denmark, and I heard about the cafe through John Wynn. That I met on one of the Eureka forums. Eureka is the European pendant to the Wonka World Working Party, and I'm the GP or the young doctor liaison officer between Eureka and Vasco da Gama, the young GP movement in Europe. And yeah, I've never participated before, but this is basically a trial to make a connection for the two networks, maybe to work together. But in private life, I'm a GP trainee right now, actually not in a rural area, but have been and will be going back. And what we are working with in Eureka is especially trying to reach out to isolated practitioners and GP trainees in isolated areas and try to get them more involved in the network. And I thought cafes or initiatives like these could be great to bring them together. Yeah. So the thought is maybe to do a cafe at the next Wonka Europe conference with your help. So today I'm seeing how this works.
Perfect. I think it's a great practical learning is better than just talking about it. So welcome, Berit, and I hope we have a great cafe. Amber, can you introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Amber. I'm originally from the Virgin Islands in the Caribbean, but currently a junior doctor in rural part of North Wales. And I will be doing my family medicine residency in August, which I'm very excited about. I've been helping out with the Rural Café since it started over 3 years ago now, and very excited to see, where we plan to take this next.
Thank you, Amber. So we have someone that never participated, and Gobif, that is our it's always stimulate us participating, and then myself and Amber that started this whole idea. Just to have some data from the Rural Café, we started it in October of 2015. We have more than 38 editions. We have done systematically it in the conferences in the world conference, the World Wonka Conference, and the World and the Rural World Conferences from Wonka. And we have like covered all the countries, and we have more than 40 participants. And I think it's kind of a small idea that became a seed also for the Rural Seeds Network and for other projects that we have taken on. And we had like spent and put a lot of energy. And I'm really happy with all that we have achieved. However, we started to realize last year that during the conference we have an amazing participation. However, during like these editions that are more like monthly based, we start to have less people participating, and we want to talk about that, and if we just need to keep doing monthly, or if we should move to like just doing that on conferences, because we have like great attendance and great integration. So what do you think about that? Maybe I will let Amber, can you complement what I'm saying, Amber, about your experience all these years as well with the cafe?
Yeah, I agree with you, because I mean, when we first started, we hadn't even thought of doing it at a conference, and we had some pockets of interest, and we had a lot of engagement on Twitter. And I think the thing that really kicked it all off was the first cafe we did at the Rio conference, which was absolutely huge. It was the first time that I think a lot of people who had heard about the cafe understood the link between watching this chat and using Twitter, which obviously not everyone, is tech savvy enough to understand the hashtags and how that works. But once you got to get people to understand that, you can tweet something from anywhere in the world and interact with this group of people, and particularly the panel of expertise that we have to share their experiences in rural, I think that was the turning point for the cafe. But the problem we had was, as soon as the Rio conference was over, we didn't have that same engagement, and actually the number of people who participated in the cafes got less and less and less, to the point where sometimes there was only 2 people, or the cafe was only half an hour, or sometimes nobody showed up. And obviously, to run the cafe, to keep it monthly, takes quite a bit of effort on our part. We're all very busy doctors. So we started thinking, okay, is monthly the best way to do it? Should it only be at the conferences? If the conferences are what people get the most out of the experience, then should we just highlight the cafe experience via the conferences so that they became more annually or biannually? And then the other thing that was interesting was we had a lot of people who were in rural communities and started their own cafes. So obviously all of our cafes are facilitated in English, but it's a lot easier for people, for example, the group in South Africa who've done their own cafe. It's easier for them because they don't necessarily have the internet connection to facilitate having it on Google Hangouts, and they can do it in their own language. And that the whole point of the Rural Cafe was just to get people talking together, isn't it? So getting people to do that on a local level was one of the aims that we hope to achieve. So then we started thinking, well, does it make any sense for all these groups to have their own cafes and then have one monthly one if they're getting their own need locally? So I mean, as Mayar said, the reason why we wanted to have this discussion was just to get some feedback about what works best with these cafes, what do people want to get out of it. I think one of the best things that we can do is continue to do the cafes at conferences, because it's something that is, number one, often requested, whether or not it had intended to have a cafe there or not. And it's something that people actually look forward to. So, people love going to the conferences and say, yes, I participated in the famous Rural Family Medicine Cafe, even though it's at, the World Conference in Seoul or whatever. So I think we definitely need to keep that aspect of it because it's quite valuable. But I'm not entirely convinced that the monthly meeting on this platform is an effective use of our time and resources.
Absolutely. We had next month we are going to do a Brazilian one in Portuguese for the first time. And Julia is coordinating that, so we are really like excited about that. and looking forward to having like more people involved in Portuguese. But yeah, I think a language barrier is also one of the things that we need to deal with. And I think it's kind of, we have the opportunity to have big ones in conferences, like Barrett wants to do in the European Wonka conference. And then having the locals for like countries or even continents, and having like more, trying to don't have that much language barrier. What do you think? Maybe Gobit, Barry, do you want to comment?
Yeah, actually, I think we should continue at least not a regular basis, maybe not a monthly, maybe at least twice a month or like that. We have to continue like maybe we can discuss even our regional and issues and all. So maybe that, as you said, even though we are meeting we are having the big rural cafe during the conferences, but even though in the remote wise, like through the net, so we have that is from the regional. We have to meet, even discuss about upcoming conferences. Maybe what are the challenges we face? It maybe maybe we currently we are facing in the Zimbabwe. We are having the flood and all. Maybe the disaster situation we can discuss. More than that, I think we can discuss about some research topic as well through our colleagues through the among the region. So better we should continue without interrupt that. Not in the regular basis, maybe the monthly, maybe everyone are busy. Even for us, maybe we study further. Maybe we go for rural work and loads. So better we will continue. Maybe today, so one of the we can talk because we are coming 28th March 28th is the deadline for the 16 rural conference in New Mexico. So likewise, we can fix a date. So what we are going to do, maybe with the young people. So maybe we can discuss what we can do in further like. So I think this is one of the great opportunity for the even youngsters, even the medical students and all, because I'm strongly believe because I'm currently in this position because as touched with even one of the rural seat or in other hangouts meetings. So so better we'll continue. I think my view. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Gobit. Barry, do you want to comment?
Yeah, I just think first of all, it's a huge compliment that you have local groups that have taken on that have taken the idea and made it their own. That's amazing. Because I guess the whole problem, or the biggest problem, is the communication, or the difficulty communicating even within a country. I've been trying for years to find a way to gather, or to get like the people that are the most active are often in the main cities, and the rural doctors are often difficult to reach. So huge compliment. And I guess I would actually use, looking back for you, I would just use that information. So you found out that the biggest participation is at conferences. So go further with that. Like every network that has some kind of rural interest, you should definitely have make it a rule that your cafe is going to be there. I would love, for instance, to be able, like when I told Eureka about the cafe, some of them had heard about it. They were just, oh yeah, great idea, let's do that. And I know that they would love to have it on the forum, the local forum that is just for the isolated and rural practitioners. And maybe you could focus on there could be a focus on the how to do. Like it was just so nice when you sent the email saying, "Hey, this is to Amber, where she said this is the how to do it." And maybe you can use either use the meeting online monthly, or whenever there's a request on talking about the difficulties of establishing. Because I agree that the biggest hurdle is often to get maybe our tutor and our mentor doctors that might not be so, even for me, the difficulties just getting on, and how does Hangouts and what's that, and where do I click, and do I receive an email, or does there come a password, that there is maybe just a quick guide when we sit together and say, okay, everyone takes out their phones, let's look at it together, click, 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 and now we can talk, or, you know, just maybe do things like that, because that is a quite practical thing. And I have seen that happening sometimes before. If we've had votes with, I can't remember what they are called, the votes you can do on the phone, then people just find it really cool when you understand how to do it. But yeah, maybe just have a focus on the practical part, and just take it as a huge compliment that your idea has become local. That's amazing. I would love to do that. And I was just not sure, am I actually allowed to do that? Do they want that? So you could maybe promote that and say, hey guys, do you have difficulties communicating in your rural network? We can help you, kind of. Yeah. Thanks.
That's really great, Berit, because we have like we produce like short videos as well in Rural Seeds, and maybe we can do like a practical video guide of how to set up a Rural Cafe. I think we can do it. Like I can check how we can do it.
I was interested. Actually, that's the next thing I wanted to compliment. The biggest difficulty is all the animation, and how do you attract people? Who does that? Who is the animation person in this?
We have like a group of Brazilians, and but we are open. Like we just don't have that much people from all around the world that wants to participate. But then we created kind of a group, and then we have the support of the Brazilian Society of Family Medicine. They kind of help us paying the softwares and to writing the scripts. But it's kind of, I started that in also, I think, 2016. Now I think we are in almost 10 people, and then everybody, one's record the voice, another person does the animation, another one does the script. And but we always need like support. Scripts are really hard to write, and then we always need support to do that. So, and even like to record the English, and having like my accent is different from yours, is different from Gobif, is different from Amber. So having like different accents and this kind of stuff, this makes us more like that we can reach more people around the world. So if anybody that's watching us do not know the rural videos, I think it's a great idea, and we are kind of reaching other parts of the world with the videos as well. So yeah, I think we can do like a practical guide with the animations to talk about how to do a rural cafe. What do you think, Amber?
No, I totally agree with you. And I mean, the last presentation that I did on the Rural Cafe in Seoul, we changed the format because normally what we do is we have sort of a live cafe happening with teas and coffees that's then broadcast on Google Hangouts. But I changed the format so that we would sort of go through that, how to do a Rural Cafe, how to set it up. Yes, you can use it without having to go through trademark or whatever. And people found that very useful. So, and I sort of felt when I did that's the way we were going to move forward anyway, because we can't all commit to going to conferences all around the globe all the time. And it's a lot easier to facilitate a this is how you do it session rather than a full-blown cafe. But I definitely think having an animation explaining how to do it would be very useful, especially because of all the changes. So perhaps you guys don't know, but Facebook have changed the way that they do their pages, and Google Hangouts and YouTube have changed the way that they do their broadcasting, and it's gotten very complicated. And if you weren't confused before, you would definitely be confused now. So I think having an animation that says, okay, this is what window you need to open and what browser you need to use and all of that would be very useful.
Okay, so I think it's a good plan for us in the near future to come up with this video. And also Bert asked us about how we do like to use it, and if I could do it or not. We are actually very supportive that people from all around the world replicate it. We are not jealous of the idea of the Rural Café. It's actually for everybody, and it could be adapted to any reality. And I think the biggest uh, idea here is like I started it as a medical student, Amber as well. Now we are like young doctors, and we have people from more experience that participated. And I think this is like a great way for us to integrate and to like be don't have like an age discrimination and even like experience discrimination. It's like to a normal talk with people in a cafe, in a coffee shop. So I think this is the biggest idea that we had. I don't know, anybody wants to comment? Go Beef. Okay.
Yeah, actually, yeah, we already discussed uh, even though we have learned a lot of from our rural cafes, even though we are copy down, maybe we are continue like even the regional setup. For me, actually, earlier normally as I now come for my postgraduate study, I am in the away from my rural area, so I always missing my action meeting, monthly meeting, and all. So after that, even though earlier also we can speak through the Skype, but even though normally no one happy to accommodate. Maybe they said, okay, you have to be in the person in the meeting. But after that, I have shown this is the way actually we are doing from the around the world. We are doing this cafe and discussing our topics and all. Then they are really appreciate, and they are now we are doing even though when I away from my rural meetings. So I always through this hangouts, maybe I'll can connect with even from not out from here, some are gone for the foreign training, so rural attachment. So we connect people through that, and we do this as a example pathway. So we should introduce to our juniors, maybe even maybe we may making or labeled as maybe bit a senior, but then we have to pass to the medical students and young doctors. So definitely this is one of the good platform. Uh, we'll continue whatever the way. So really great. Even though maybe I have just seen maybe less participation from reason maybe the 5 or 10 less than 10, but that doesn't matter. We discuss, so we'll achieve the that day topic. Maybe today also we are for the topic what's next. Actually we are discussing, we will get the idea, get the answer for that. So even though perspective of the participant number, maybe that we will continue as a model, maybe ideal platform to the through the online. I think we'll continue. It's a great job, Ira and team, who I started from the beginning. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Gobif. We actually have Dan from Australia, and he's watching us. So thank you for that. And he participated at Delhi and Cairns, and he was suggesting that we had a cafe session in Kyoto, at the Wonka Kyoto. So yeah, we can see if we can manage with you, but it would be great to replicate the idea all around the world. I think this is like we created a seed, and and then we are spreading it all around the world. I feel like we are like planting seeds and talking about rural. When I did it in 2015, we almost didn't have like rural discussion in Brazil, we had it. It was very academic, and it was closed mainly to the already graduated doctors. And then we started with the like having it more integrated into the curriculum by the student initiative. So we have like changed, like some universities are including rural because the students started to ask for having like rural internships, to having rural modules. And we kind of like in Brazil, we have changed a lot, and we're kind of becoming cool because before when we talked about rural, we are like very, but it wasn't cool. And I think we made like a new way to think about rural. So what do you think that could be like new ways also to discuss rural health and think about rural health? Maybe Amber, you're a bit quiet.
I think one of the best ways is probably getting people to understand how they can utilize social media and that they can actually influence their curriculum. So I was fortunate enough that my medical school already had a rural track in place. But what I tried to do was uh, demonstrate that you can create opportunities within that framework. So we had the rural and remote health and medical education track, which allowed us to have our rotations in rural and remote areas. But on top of that, what I tried to do was build connections with the students who are interested in rural and the practitioners who are already in rural and get them to sort of see that it's not just a one-way path of learning, that actually there are many opportunities with rural medicine. And using social media. So, for example, the short film that we did together was using, imagery as well as poetry to sort of bring to life the experience of rural. Because a lot of students, they have their own fear of what it means to be rural and what does rural medicine involve. And that's where the videos and things came in handy when we were explaining what exactly is rural family medicine, what is family medicine. But using social media more to put people who are active in rural medicine more in the spotlight. And that's, across different countries, across different languages. So using things like Instagram, using things like Twitter to get people involved and engaged, I think will be very useful. And that's why I think, the cafe will never stop completely, because it is a point of engagement. Although we're all busy and there are different time zones and different languages, we all gain something from this connection. And we all have the opportunity to create networks and learning from it. But I think it's just sort of crossing that technological gap and putting the power back in people's hands that we need to get through to.
And I think that we can like set for this year that we'll be more active at the conference, but as Gobert say, we can like at any point change it again and then do it monthly or every 2 months or every 3 months and discuss them. We are not like a square. We can always be checking, and can always changing. And if someone wants to discuss a topic and be really like interested, we can help to set up a Rural Café. We can even share it and discuss the topic. So I think one of the great things for who is going to watch it is like to say, I want to do a cafe on this topic, and then get this energy and check with our networks how we can run it, and if it's better a local one, if it's better like a world one, or even like a continent one, and then we can do our best to facilitate that. So maybe Berit, do you want to talk or go, Biv?
Yeah, I was just it was just a comment on what was said earlier on the definition of rural. I know that in Eureka it's a huge subject, that what is the definition of rural, and we have tried to do workshops and definitions, and there is actually not a real definition of what is a rural GP, because it is I think the closest we got to it was if you feel like a rural GP, you are a rural GP basically. But it's the problem it brings for many countries is that the lack of definition is of course bringing the lack of recognition with it, and the lack of recognition is we just hear about it from many countries that there's not a track specifically for rural GPs, and that is something that is really sad, especially for the young GPs in those countries. And I've been wondering whether exactly just keeping the redefinition and the talk about it going, and maybe also bringing examples in the cafe of how has it, what is the history of the countries that have an established track of supported of support in the rural medicine track. How did it work out? Like for instance, in Wales, that could be quite inspirational. I think Canada has been quite good at it. And yeah, personally struggling a lot with it in Denmark. There's not any recognition of it. Basically, the board is saying that we don't have rural areas because our country is too small. But but we do have GPs that feel rural. But yeah, it was just to say that I find it's important to just keep the discussion going, because as long as there's a discussion, then it means that there are people that are interested and there are people that actually think there is something such as a rural GP. Thanks.
Yeah, I think we can do it like in a frequency difference. Like we can check who wants to participate of this, then and then we can do it. Like if you can guarantee that 3 or 4 people can participate, that could be a great cafe, and that would be a great cafe talking about the differences in the world. I would really like of who established rural tracks. I think we can think in people that did it, and we can be like this validation from like worldwide that rural is important. I think the Rural Café worked for myself as a validation space that I want to be a rural GP, and I'm in the right place. I'm just like not in the best environment, because it's still like growing. Brazil is not like other countries that have that more like recognize it. But you can like talk with myself here, Golbeef in Sri Lanka, or Amber in Caribbean and Wales, and then you can kind of have some validation that it's true and I'm not alone in this dream. And then we have rural people as well, and then even if you're a small country, we have people that feel rural, and that's really important. Maybe, I don't know, Amber, Golbeef, do you want to comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment about, I really like what you said about keeping the discussion going, because I think a lot of times, especially when you compare rural family medicine to other specialties, they sort of expect us to have a 1-hour discussion and leave with an answer, which isn't always the case. It's more about sort of sharing your experiences of, okay, this is where we are now, this is what we'd like to achieve, how can we design a framework that suits our community best. And yeah, I can totally sympathize with Denmark not recognizing rural, because I was speaking to a colleague from the Netherlands who was saying, oh no, I don't think we have rural in the Netherlands. And I was like, but you're like the largest growers of tulips. Like where do your farmers go when they get sick? You know what I mean? But yeah, and even in the Caribbean, you know, we count as rural. But if you ask a Caribbean person, oh, do you think the Virgin Islands is rural? They will tell you, oh no, we have, you know, we have buildings. And I'm like, well, buildings doesn't make you rural, make you a city, isn't it? It just means you have concrete. But there's this whole perception of being rural means that you're poor and you have nothing. And you know, I think a lot of the activity that we try and achieve with Rural Seeds and with the Rural Family Medicine Cafe is to counteract that belief that rural is like you know, look fine and no people. it actually is a number of different factors that affect how people are able to access health and the quality of healthcare that they receive.
I think it cut a bit, Amber, but I got it, like the definition of rural. Yeah, and I think this idea to make rural a place for doctors and for health professionals, that's one of the things that we have achieved with the Rural Café. Not perfectly, but like having this validation and discussing the definition, and then I think that's one of the big things that even like for myself, like I feel the supportive possibilities of the Rural Cafe. I think we are having like a parallel discussion as well at the YouTube chat with Dan, and I think we can like if Dan wants to participate of the video call next time, I would be really happy. And then maybe if we compromise with each other that in like 1 or 2 months, we do want to discuss the rural track in other countries, and then Dan is from Australia, which has a good rural track. We can check if someone wants to talk from Wales. We can do the next Rural Cafe, but we need like to guarantee that we have people participating. And then we can do like it more, maybe invite some people and then try to get some support, like also for like running it, like for sending emails and checking who wants to participate, if the time zone it's okay. And we always need to do that, and then maybe some new hands to help will be really good for us, and to refresh all the work that we have been doing. Isn't that, Amber?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things I've been trying to do is figure out a way to engage more Caribbean medical students, and I haven't managed to do it through Polaris, but IFMSA have gotten quite a lot of engagement with the Medical Society in Trinidad and Tobago. So I'm still toying with the idea of hosting a cafe about medicine in the Caribbean, but we'll see if I'm brave enough to try.
It took 2 years to set up one in Brazil. And like, I think we will have the Caribbean, and I'm looking forward to watch it. Absolutely. And hopefully we have a specific one from Denmark. I will not be able to join it because of the language, but I will follow it anyway on Twitter or on Facebook. But like, and do you think, Gobif, that we can have like a local rural cafe running in Sri Lanka? I don't know if Gobif is around, but what do you think, Berit?
Hello, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Gobif, you go. I wait.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, actually, it's not a rural cafe. Even though we, as I said, if we away from this our rural area, so we do for our formal meeting as for the absentees can join as an informal way through the Hangouts or Skype or some other way. I do like that. Otherwise, although as a visiting lecturer, sometimes I away from my students who are in the rural placement. So I do the discussion. They go for the rural seats and all. Then so sometimes each and everyone in the different seats and all. Then so sometimes each and everyone in the different arrange for the Hangouts discussion. So it's also one type of like a local rural cafe. So it's I arrange the convenient with the students in the evening or so whatever the times, not as a regular uh, the study time. So actually everything comes from this example from the rural cafe. So the great is going on still. So that's a wonderful thing. Other than that, about the rural definition, actually, yes, we discuss. It is a everyone discussing in different way. I think we are still having the one of the workshop in New Mexico as well about the definition. We are just planning, but in the meantime, it's different to the every country according to their country needs. Maybe the supply of the doctors, maybe with the requirement of the health services, whatever that. But if we put a name, I just feel if we put a name as a rural, not like earlier. Now it is maybe government is looking more concerned. They said okay, they are putting the name. What are the reason for the about the country's constitution, or maybe that about the statics and so on. But they will look in. Okay, we should give because there's a doctor ratio with the patient, maybe the service delivery. So they are looking to at least to cover the health service, health deliveries. Maybe the universal health coverage. Now everyone talking about the universal health coverage, health for all. So that everyone targeting in the rural. So maybe we are more touch with maybe more the important people uh, uh, than earlier. So maybe we are the fortunate people, maybe actually fortunate people who are living in theirs with the beautiful environment and all, with the beautiful people to give the service needed. But anyway, I think we are getting more opportunities and more fortunate to do the services even with the limited setup. Yeah, go on.
Thank you, Gobi. Very.
Yeah, I mean,
Hello?
I would love to do that in Denmark locally. I think I will start with concentrating to just do the first setup at the conference. But I think the good thing about maybe getting the cafe locally or nationally in Denmark would be the awareness of the doctors actually being a group, because it doesn't exist. And I can see that there's a potential, because I've been thinking how to bring together people, and it's definitely the way it to be, or it should, at least I should try to do it. And it's good to hear that the time frame for you guys has been long, because I can be sometimes a bit impatient with things like that. But the problem is just too big now. We have just had a situation where basically the lack of rural practitioners, it just there has been a political idea to place new doctors that just qualified, to send them in the rural areas, forced to basically help out that problem. And it's just totally, in my opinion, it's just not fair either. For you take the flame from the doctor that has, maybe there was a potential for them to become rural doctors, but the moment they're just thrown into a situation as in being maybe alone without a lot of support in a rural area, they might never go back. You don't shut the flame of a young doctor. And the other thing is just it's just not fair for the specialist that has been using years to specialize in a specialty and just say, well, not enough of you, we're going to replace you with an untrained doctor. And it's just there's no platform where people can talk about that anger that has been. It's just been like shattered around in the country. And I really think that that could be useful. But like I said, like that's why I was 10 minutes late. It's not like I'm the most amazing person on social media. I'm actually really not. Really happy I'm here. But I would love to work on that setup. But actually, I thought maybe, I mean, if you're interested, I could work on that cafe, and the subject being, maybe getting experience from, if we look at what countries have succeeded with the rural, or focus on rural education, and has and maybe pinpoint people like like you suggested, and try maybe to, because I know that in Eurepa network they will be able to tell me who and what, and if I could find these people and have them at the conference, it would be quite interesting, I think. So if that would be okay for me to use your beautiful designed um, things, then I would like to advertise for that and try to organize it.
Absolutely, like Berit, that's for us to support each other, and we can support you running the Danish one. That's absolutely, and the Wonka one, and whatever you need from like the Rural Café team and the Rural Seeds team. By my part, we will do our best, and I think we can absolutely run one about the countries that have succeed, and maybe you can help us to check which countries and maybe who wants to talk about the rural track and everything. I think we can sort it like for 1 or 2 months, and if it is okay, like Amber, the best person on social media, we want to comment.
I think that's a brilliant idea, actually, because as you were even mentioning that, I can already think of at least one person who would love to have a session just complaining about how poorly trainees in rural are treated. And certainly one of the issues that I'm dealing with. So I'm originally from the Virgin Islands, the island that I live on. They are constructing a mini hospital, and one of the fears that people have is that the hospital is going to be employed by foreign doctors, so people not from the Virgin Islands. And I was telling my parents, I said, there is a global shortage of doctors, especially in rural areas, even if you don't want to admit that our town is rural. I said, you'll never get anyone to work here that easily, that foreign doctors will be a problem. And my mom is like, oh, what do you mean? I said, oh, well, even in rural Wales where I work, they are struggling to have doctors. The area that I trained in before in South Wales, they only managed to get 3 out of 9 middle grade posts for emergency medicine. Everybody else was a locum doctor, a clinical fellow, or a GP trainee. And the story is the same wherever you go. They just, no matter how much money you throw at them, no matter how many opportunities you throw at them, nobody wants to work in rural. So why would my country be any different? And I think that profound lack of understanding from the health service authority in my country is kind of the same problem with several different places. So they'll tell you, like you said, that, oh, we don't have rural, adding a rural curriculum is unnecessary, it's extra work, what's the benefit, blah, blah, blah. But actually, the communities that suffer the most are a lot more than what people think. Like, my country wouldn't consider themselves rural. However, we are going to be affected by the fact that people do not want to work in rural. And, I'm eagerly awaiting the day I return back to my country and have to deal with the mess.
Yeah, well, just we have Louise from, I'm not sure where she's from, but she's interacting on Twitter, and she's saying that's a really interesting conversation, hearing about the Danish experience and of placements of doctors in rural areas and the emotional impact of them being unprepared. I think so. We have like interaction already, and we are like discussing it worldwide. And I think we should like this is happening exactly at the same thing in Brazil as well, unfortunately. So people usually graduate and work and go to work in a rural area, and then get frustrated, and then go to a big city, and then just blame rural. But they don't have like any even family medicine training, and then they were just like they just graduated, finished their junior doctor training, and then they go to a rural area. And this is a huge responsibility from governments and from people, and that's one of the biggest things that we need to discuss. I think this could be a great discussion for us for next time for the Rural Cafe, and we can plan it for next month or in 2 months. And I hope, Berit, you can help us and be present at the next one. And I just want to, we are like reaching around 11 a.m. in Brazil, so almost an hour of Rural Cafe. So we want to ask for final comments and final feedbacks on social media, and for us to close it. So maybe, I don't know who wants to start. Gobif, I think he fell down in the connection.
I'm happy to start the closing if you like. So I'm very happy that we decided not to kill the Rural Cafe, because I think it's a very valuable resource, and we put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this project, and I'm really happy to hear that we have found a use for it to keep going, and that we have already come up with a topic for the next cafe that hopefully will generate some engagement. I think one of the important things with rural medicine, as was said before, is that you can't put the flame out of the junior doctors working in rural, or the rural physician who's trying their best. And one of the ways that we're trying to keep the tiny flame going is with the Rural Cafe. So I'm very happy that we're going to still have some more.
Thank you, Amber. I'm happy too that you not have killed the monthly discussions. You're just going to adapt to a new time of our lives and the Rural Cafe as well, but making it better. Barry, do you want to do any final comments?
Definitely, yeah. Thank you. It's been really cool being part of this, and I'm a little bit sorry about my negative input there, because actually I just always get really wound up about someone trying to exactly kill the flame in future colleagues, but also, come on, like, this is the best job in the world, so why would you want to pull it down? And there's one of the senior doctors is in Eureka. He said, Berit, we need some more young doctors, because we need rural practice to be sexy. We have to do something. and I just thought, there's no need to do anything, because it's just the way you frame things. It's funny that every country has, and I've been always wondering why it is like that. If you look at the US, gynecology is the specialty that everyone doesn't want to be because of all the lawsuits. In Denmark, it's one of the most difficult to become. And it's all a story that is told. It's a story that is told, what is the cool specialty. So I think it's just up to us to tell the story about our specialty. So let's do that.
Absolutely. I just remembered, and I can send the link on the social media, the Aran Island GP advertising. I don't know who made it, but it's really cool. And then you have like a very exciting music, so you kind of feel like, oh my god, this is really cool. And then we have people telling us really great stories at the Rural Health Success Stories blog. We still lacking new stories, so I would be very happy to have yours on there, Berit. You're invited to write it. It doesn't need to be your life story. It could be just a punctual thing that you want to share of how good as well could be being rural and how difficult it could be. But I think we keep our flames, and it will be great to keep learning with each other in the rural cafes and in the other projects. So we have a lot of ideas for the near future, and we are going to have a rural cafe at Europe, at Wonka Europe, and that's really cool. So thank you so much, everybody, and I really hope to see each other in the next rural edition. And we're going to talk about the inspirational student tracks and rural tracks from all around the world. So we are inviting you all to let us know what's the best time to do it and how we can have you talking about these inspirations. And so see you, and thank you so much for Berit, Gobif, and Amber being here today. So bye-bye.
Bye.